Last time, with the Chevelle project, Lou mocked up the front suspension. Today, Lou measures for the stoppity stop-stops brakes on Garage Insider TV with Lou Santiago.
Hey everybody, Lou Santiago from Garage Insider TV. Now, I need you guys to subscribe and click the like button. It's really important because our numbers are going up, and if you guys want to keep watching cool stuff, I need your support. It's just that simple. So, what we're going to do today is I'm going to explain to you guys how you measure for wheels. Now, I'm going to get Budnick wheels, and they're going to custom make them from what the information that I give them is. And it's important that you give them the correct information. I found this on the internet, and what this does is it tells you how to measure, and you're going to see more of this in a minute. But what you want to do is you need to measure a few things. The hat area here in relationship to the caliper, because as you can see, I got some tools here. When you put it on there, when you put it in, right, I got a 90 degree, you see the caliper actually hangs out further than the hat. That's important because if you don't have this measurement, the wheel could actually hit the caliper, or you need to run a spacer. Now, the reason why you see a lot of guys running spacers nowadays is back in the day, you used to be able to get some wheels. It was not a problem because people made different offset wheels for you in different spacings so you can accommodate what you had going on. But now that everything's in China, there's only a few people left doing that. You've got Budnick, Billet Specialties, Intro, American Racing has a custom wheel division. There's not a lot of people doing it anymore, and that's why this is so important, because it doesn't make sense to build a cool car and then go out and spend $150 on billet spacers, which do have a problem with failure. It's just that simple. They have another space where you can slide it over, but it's just holes. But the problem is you lose threads, and then if you get too big of a spacer, you're having to put extended studs in there so you can use it, but it still doesn't work that well. So you want to keep that in mind. You have different letters that you have to fill out, and a couple of the measurements are here. Like I said right here, you want to measure this distance from my straight edge to the hat. Another one you need to know is the measurement here where the wheel bearings go, because the wheel, of course, has to fit over it. And you have to measure the diameter as well as the height. And the reason why you need to measure that is simple. Because if there's a cap on that wheel, like everybody has, you need to be able to fit the cap on top of it so it closes up nice and pretty. Now, I remember a long time ago, there was an aftermarket wheel company where this was bigger on the C10 trucks, and you actually had to hog it out in the wheel. And everybody knows who I'm talking about. Nice 5-spoke, gray center, BOSS, those guys. I think they're gone now. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a real popular wheel, but they didn't fit because on the C10 trucks, I believe it was 82, 83, they actually made a different rotor. It was thinner than what they ran on some of the other ones, and they went back to the thicker one, the 1.25 inch thickness, and the other one was an inch, I believe it was, and it went away. So you had wheels made for a different rotor, and they don't work unless you hog out the middle. And you're trying to avoid spending a lot of money on wheels by getting custom ones, so you want them to fit right. So you want to have the following measurements. You have this measurement here, how thick the caliper is, right? You have the measurement from the hat to the caliper, what the distance is there. Then you also need to have the number from the center of the bearing cap down to the bottom, because all this stuff plays into it. You have a big rotor, you're not going to be able to run a 16-inch wheel. We're going to run 18s in front and 20s in the rear. So that's important for them to know when you're doing it. And you also need to have some of these brake calipers, it steps out. Like a lot of your 6-piston calipers, you have the main body and then it steps out, so it's actually going to be wider, and they need to accommodate for that step. They may have to cut something in it if the spoke has a scallop or something. It's shaped kind of weird. They have to accommodate for it. So what we're going to do next is go to the table. I've got another fantastic FUSA-approved drawing for you guys to look at, and it has the measurements on it, and I can really explain it for you. Let's go. All right, so I hope that brake information I gave you guys is relevant and it's going to help you out in the future, because you got to build a cool car, you got to have cool wheels. It's just that simple. So the next step that I'm going to do on the Slowburban is the intake system. What I did was I picked a trick flow dual plane manifold, and the reason why it's a dual plane is right here. What that does is it keeps the parts of the engine separate, the intake system separate, so you have more low-end torque. This manifold's good to about 6,000, 6,500 RPM, And it's perfect for what I'm doing. It really is. And the reason why I say that is because this thing's going to run down the highways with the AC on. It may on a good day see the high side of 4,000 RPM. It's not designed to be running down the road. The other thing that's cool about this is an air gap manifold. And the reason why it's an air gap manifold, when these are designed now, they actually make it where the air can go underneath and it helps cool the charge. If back in the day when aluminum manifolds were coming out, all this was one big piece. And they had a problem with vapor locking. And when you get vapor lock situations, the gas burns in the intake or in the carburetor before it gets into the engine to fire. So what's happening is it's heating it. And they figured out on some manifolds, it was actually better to cast it like this so it cools the charge a little bit. This is a max EFI setup from Summit. It's their label. It's what they're running. And I liked it because it fits what I'm doing, under 500 horse. That's it. I don't need nothing crazy. So it's a throttle body style, or as I'm going to call it, a faux carb. A faux carb. Oh yes, I'm running a faux carb now. This is the faux carb that I like. And the reason why I like it, it looks like a carburetor. Once you put the air cleaner on it with a drop base, you're pretty much good to go. It just looks like a regular old carburetor or a throttle body injection, and you're happening. It comes with all the wiring that you need. It comes with the little programmer. It even comes with the doohickey to hold the programmer. So it's minor work. You have an O2 sensor you have to weld in, a water temperature that you got to put in, and it's really self-explanatory. But we do have instructions, and you're going to see that when we install it next.
That next time is on the Slowburban. Be sure to catch up on it before next week's episode on Garage Insider TV.
Okay, so I've got my Foose approved drawing. I know you guys love that Foose approved drawing thing because I'm no artist and he is. It's just that simple. The man draws while he eats dinner. It's insane. I've seen him do it. But anyway, here's our drawing, right? This is a copy of the paper. And the reason why I did this is because I wanted you guys to see what kind of numbers I have. They even want you to get the inner fender well measurement, which is important, but right now doesn't apply to us because the car is going to be low, so everything's going to change anyway. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to modify the body and the car and the wheels and everything to make it work. That's just all there is to it. So I'm not worried about the inner wheel well, and I'm not worried about the fender clearance because I'll do what I got to do to make it all fit. So that's your measurement, your A measurement from the inner to the edge, right? To the inside edge to the outer edge. And then this is your fender, which is your L measurement from the center out, all right? Your H measurement, and I know I'm not going in order because I'm trying to cover everything that's really quick and relevant. Your H measurement is right here. That goes from this line here of the outer edge of the fender to the hat. And then your B measurement will go from the hat up to the top of it. It's not really redundant because sometimes there's a ½ inch difference in here. They're never the same. So you need to have that measurement because that's going to tell them how wide they have to go, what their minimum and maximum is, depending on how low the car is, okay? Then you have your L measurement is L measurement does go out to the edge of the fender. Then your D measurement is how what the diameter is of the wheel bearing area. That's important. And then your E measurement is going to be from the hat to the outside edge of the bearing cup. And of course your rotor thickness and all that. Now that's measuring some of the measurements. And then you also have these measurements, which are pretty simple in themselves. This is your brake rotor. And then you have, this is that step I was telling you about. So you need to know from the center out to the top of that step, right? And then you go from the center to the very edge of the caliper. So this is your caliper measurements. You need to know that. And then you go from the very inside to the center of the brake, to the center of the wheel. All those numbers are important in order to get a wheel that fits correctly. Because like I told you guys a few minutes ago, if you're spending $5-6 grand on a set of wheels, you don't want to waste your money. So it's really important to do this. And it applies to everything, cars, trucks. It even applies to a motorcycle. Because if you decide to get custom wheels made for a bike, you got to compensate for the rotor. You have to compensate for the sprocket. If it's a belt drive bike, you got to compensate for that big pulley that's on the back wheel. So all this stuff is really important. So you need to take it seriously if you're going to spend the money on them. Next, I got a really cool tip for you that a friend of mine told me about. Let's go. Hey guys, Lou Santiago here. I know this is just a tip, but this is the new bourbon. I know it's a bourbon thing, Suburban Specialties. So I was driving this home, and this heater core here, this heater hose, broke. And it broke right at the clamp, so it was not a big deal, and I put a new hose on it. And I didn't know what antifreeze was in it. And nowadays, these antifreezes are not compatible. Like your 50/50 isn't compatible with your Universal. They have a Honda one, there's a GM only one. They're making them in different colors. So to be safe, at the time, I just put water in it. And I still have just water in it. And I was trying to figure out how can I clean the system out without having to tear it all apart and without destroying my heater core. So I was talking to my friend Jim, and he said, our other friend Rick told him, he said, get about a teaspoon of Cascade. Yeah, dishwashing soap. Throw it in there, not like Palmolive or Dawn. The stuff for your dishwasher. Put that in there, get it up to operating temperature, running around 15, 20 minutes, dump it out, do it again. And the reason why he said something like Cascade is because the dishwashing liquid will actually sud up. It makes suds, and you don't want that. The stuff for your dishwasher doesn't do that, but it cuts the grease. So what it does when it gets nice and hot is flowing through the system, it's cleaning all that petroleum out. Then when you drain it, do it again, and it's good to go. He said drain it a second time and you're good to go. And he said it's not corrosive to any of the brass or the aluminum because you put that stuff in your dishwasher anyway. All your aluminum pots, there might be some brass in there, because like I know I have pots at home, they have a brass coating on the bottom. They're old pots. So you want to do something that's not going to hurt the system. So he said use something like Cascade and you'll be good to go. That's why I'm here. Tips and tricks.
Wish your pickup rode better when it was empty and didn't squat when you're hauling? Here's the perfect solution. A complete heavy-duty air suspension system from strutmasters.com. It comes with everything you need and bolts right in your truck with no modification. Raise and lower the back end for easy trailer hookup, and it rides like a dream. Get a complete air suspension kit for your truck at strutmasters.com or call us at 866-597-2397.
So I hope that tip does you guys well. So this is the rear end of the Chevelle frame. And here's the thing. We're not going to do a tail in the air car from the 70s. We're not doing that because that's just so old and passé. I don't roll like that anymore. Not that I ever did. I always thought it was pretty ugly. But we're going to run a 20 by 12 underneath this thing, which means we're going to run a 335/35/20 on the back. That's like 13 inches of tire. It's a pretty hefty piece of meat. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to pinch the rails in or totally build another set of rails. But you still have to get some measurements for that, which I'll be able to do just by using a rotor and a brake caliper. So it's not a problem. When I call for the wheels, I'll have those numbers also. I didn't think it was relevant to show you that because it's the same stuff just on the rear basically. But what I will have to do is I'll have to move the 4-link stuff around, the factory trailing arms. I'm calling it a 4-link. It's going to be a 4-bar when I get done because there will be adjustment. I'm going to make new brackets for the front, new brackets for the rear, change out this cross member, and do whatever I have to do to make it all fit. Because you have to remember something. The car can only be so wide or else it gets really weird. So everything will get moved in to make the width of the tires work. What I'm going to do is measure the outside edge to outside edge on the sides. And that tells me how wide I can go. And with that said, it's going to also mean how much backspace I need, how much lip I have coming out, positive, negative offset and all that. We're going to get into that next time. But it's all going to be done, and you'll see it when I have the parts. It'll be easier for me to show you. So let's look at the next piece to this puzzle because the engine is going in next for mock-up. So what I did, we're going to put an LS in here. I got these plates from ITC Billet. you need a regular motor mount with it. So this will go on the LS on the block, and then this will go right like this. See, that's how it will mount. And this is a short mount. Now they actually make two different mounts from the factory GM, so all the aftermarket makes them also. This tab here is long or short. I chose the short because of the plate. So I want to make sure that the engine doesn't sit too high, because you start running into clearance issues if you get too crazy. With an LS engine, it's not such a big deal. They also make LS engine mounts where you don't have to use the two pieces like that, but that's the pieces I got, so that's the pieces I'm going with, and it'll be easy. So next time you'll see the engine going in as well as something else. What was the other thing? Oh yes, the Slowburban. Let's go over there and I'll show you that.
Next time on Garage Insider TV, Lou is back to the Slowburban project. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell others where to find Lou. Till next time, stay inside the garage.